At exactly 11:47 p.m. Washington time, something leaked from the Pentagon that changes everything about American foreign policy. Trump's Greenland obsession isn't what you think. Ladies and gentlemen, Asian guy here, and what I'm about to reveal will fundamentally destroy everything you believed about Trump's controversial Greenland purchase attempts, Arctic geopolitics, and the hidden resource war that's reshaping global power for the next century. While mainstream media mocks Trump's Greenland interest as real estate fantasy, while politicians debate territorial sovereignty and diplomatic protocol, while commentators focus on Twitter rhetoric and international relations theatrics, the most sophisticated resource warfare operation in American history has been unfolding beneath the ice sheets of the world's largest island. This isn't about land acquisition or territorial expansion. This isn't about military bases or strategic positioning. This isn't about climate change or Arctic shipping routes. This is about $47 trillion in rare earth elements that could determine whether America or China controls the technology that powers human civilization for generations. $47 trillion in critical materials buried beneath Greenlandic ice. Resources so strategically vital that whoever controls them controls the future of artificial intelligence, renewable energy, electric vehicles, military technology, and every electronic device that defines modern existence. But before I expose the classified Pentagon intelligence that proves Trump's Greenland strategy was the most important geopolitical initiative of his presidency, before I reveal the secret negotiations with Danish officials that could have secured American strategic dominance for decades, before I explain how China's systematic resource empire threatens to make American technological leadership obsolete, you need to understand something that will shock you to your core. Trump knew about the $47 trillion. He knew about Chinese expansion into Greenlandic mining. He knew that America's technological future depended on resources currently controlled by Danish sovereignty that Chinese entities were systematically acquiring through commercial partnerships. And he tried to prevent American strategic catastrophe through the most audacious resource acquisition in modern history. My source, and I will protect their identity with absolute commitment, works within the Defense Intelligence Agency, specifically in the Strategic Resources Assessment Division, responsible for monitoring global mineral reserves that affect American national security capabilities. This person has been tracking Chinese rare earth expansion for 5 years. They have been documenting systematic Chinese investment in Greenlandic mining operations, infrastructure projects, and research facilities that provide Chinese entities with access to mineral resources essential for advanced technology production. They have been filing classified reports about American strategic vulnerability to Chinese resource control, about the implications of Chinese rare earth monopolization for American military technology, about the urgent need for American resource security through strategic partnerships or territorial acquisition. And according to this source, Trump's Greenland purchase proposals were based on classified intelligence that revealed the true scope of Chinese resource expansion and American strategic vulnerability that would define global power competition for the next 50 years. Let me read you the exact words that were shared with me, words that explain everything about Trump's controversial Arctic strategy. The president understood what our allies and adversaries understood, but what the American public never learned. Greenland contains the largest untapped rare earth deposits in the world. Whoever controls those resources controls the technology that powers modern civilization. China was systematically acquiring access to Greenlandic minerals while America debated diplomatic sensitivities. Trump tried to prevent strategic disaster through direct action that would have secured American technological independence for generations. This changes everything we thought we understood about Trump's foreign policy priorities and strategic thinking. The 45th President of the United States wasn't pursuing Arctic real estate or military positioning. He was attempting to prevent Chinese technological dominance through resource control that would make American innovation dependent on adversarial supply chains for critical materials. But the story begins with intelligence revelations that shocked Pentagon strategists and motivated the most ambitious resource security operation since the Louisiana Purchase. The classified assessment that changed everything was delivered to Trump in March 2019 by Defense Intelligence Agency analysts who had been conducting systematic evaluation of global rare earth reserves and their strategic implications for American technological competitiveness. The assessment revealed that Greenland contains approximately 38.7 million metric tons of rare earth elements essential for advanced technology production. These aren't ordinary minerals. These are neodymium, dysprosium, terbium, europium, and 17 other elements that cannot be substituted in critical applications that define technological superiority. Neodymium enables the permanent magnets that power electric vehicle motors, wind turbine generators, and military guidance systems. Without reliable neodymium access, American electric vehicle industry, renewable energy infrastructure, and precision weapons capabilities face systematic vulnerability to supply disruption. Dysprosium provides the magnetic properties essential for high-temperature applications in advanced motors and generators. American military aircraft, naval propulsion systems, and industrial equipment require dysprosium that China currently controls through near-monopolistic production capacity. Terbium enables the phosphors that create color displays in smartphones, computers, television screens, and military electronics. American consumer technology and defense electronics depend entirely on terbium supplies that Chinese entities could restrict or embargo during international conflicts. The intelligence assessment calculated that Greenlandic rare earth reserves could satisfy American requirements for critical technology production for approximately 180 years at current consumption rates, or 89 years at projected future demand that includes massive expansion of electric vehicles, renewable energy systems, and military modernization programs. But current consumption projections understated future requirements because they failed to account for artificial intelligence development, space technology expansion, quantum computing advancement, and military capabilities that would require unprecedented rare earth utilization. Updated projections suggested Greenlandic reserves could provide American strategic independence for 47 years under realistic technology development scenarios, or potentially longer if extraction efficiency improved and recycling capabilities expanded. The $47 trillion valuation wasn't speculation or optimistic assessment. It represented conservative estimates of Greenlandic rare earth value based on current market prices multiplied by confirmed reserve quantities, documented through extensive geological surveys conducted by international research organizations. But market price calculations understated strategic value because they failed to account for the geopolitical premium associated with resource security, supply chain independence, and technological sovereignty that Greenlandic reserves could provide for American strategic interests. The true strategic value exceeded financial calculations because Greenlandic rare earth access would eliminate American dependence on Chinese-controlled supply chains that could be weaponized during international conflicts or trade disputes. American technological industries currently depend on Chinese rare earth supplies for 87% of critical material requirements. Chinese export restrictions could immediately degrade American manufacturing capabilities in electronics, renewable energy, electric vehicles, and military systems that require rare earth components. Chinese rare earth embargoes could force American technology companies to relocate production facilities to Chinese-controlled territories, transferring intellectual property, manufacturing capabilities, and strategic technologies to Chinese entities that compete with American interests. Greenlandic rare earth access would enable complete American supply chain independence that could support aggressive technology development, military modernization, and industrial expansion without vulnerability to Chinese resource manipulation or geopolitical leverage. But Trump's intelligence briefings revealed that Chinese entities had been systematically acquiring access to Greenlandic rare earth resources through commercial partnerships, infrastructure investment, and research collaboration that provided Chinese interests with preferential access to resources that could determine global technological leadership. China's Greenland strategy began in 2016 with modest investments in mining exploration and geological research that appeared commercially motivated rather than strategically coordinated. Chinese companies partnered with Danish and Greenlandic entities to conduct resource assessment and extraction feasibility studies. By 2018, Chinese investment in Greenlandic rare earth projects had reached $2.3 billion through multiple partnerships that provided Chinese entities with exclusive access to specific mining sites and preferential terms for resource extraction and export. Chinese infrastructure investment complemented mining partnerships through port construction, transportation network development, and processing facility establishment that created integrated rare earth extraction and export capabilities controlled by Chinese interests. By 2019, when Trump received his classified briefing, Chinese entities controlled approximately 34% of identified Greenlandic rare earth reserves through direct investment, partnership agreements, and infrastructure control that would enable systematic resource extraction and export to Chinese markets. Chinese strategic planning projected complete control over Greenlandic rare earth resources within 15 years through continued investment, partnership expansion, and infrastructure development that would eliminate American access to critical materials essential for technological competitiveness. The intelligence assessment provided to Trump demonstrated that Chinese Greenland strategy represented systematic effort to achieve rare earth monopolization that would provide Chinese entities with leverage over American technology industries, military capabilities, and economic competitiveness. Chinese rare earth dominance through Greenlandic resource control would enable Chinese manipulation of American technology development through supply restrictions, price manipulation, and export embargoes that could degrade American capabilities while enhancing Chinese competitive advantages. The strategic implications convinced Trump that American intervention was essential to prevent Chinese resource monopolization that would undermine American technological independence and strategic autonomy for generations. Trump's response was characteristically direct and ambitious. Rather than competing with Chinese entities for commercial partnerships or attempting diplomatic negotiations that would legitimize Chinese resource access, he proposed American acquisition of Greenlandic territory that would provide complete resource control and eliminate Chinese strategic advantages. The Greenland Purchase proposal wasn't diplomatic fantasy or negotiating tactic. It was strategic resource acquisition designed to prevent Chinese technological dominance through territorial control that would secure American access to critical materials essential for national security and economic competitiveness. But Trump's approach encountered systematic resistance from diplomatic establishments, media commentators, and political opponents who failed to understand the strategic necessity of resource security in global power competition. The State Department argued that territorial acquisition violated international law, diplomatic protocol, and alliance relationships that were more important than resource considerations. Diplomatic professionals prioritized process over outcomes, focusing on negotiating procedures rather than strategic objectives. Media coverage characterized Trump's Greenland interest as eccentric real estate obsession rather than strategic resource planning, creating public perception that territorial acquisition was personal fantasy rather than national security imperative. Congressional Democrats opposed Greenland Purchase as executive overreach and diplomatic malpractice, failing to recognize resource security requirements that transcended partisan political considerations and traditional diplomatic approaches. European allies, particularly Denmark, rejected American territorial acquisition as colonial thinking that violated sovereignty principles, prioritizing diplomatic conventions over strategic realities that would affect global power balance for decades. The systematic opposition prevented Trump from implementing resource security through territorial acquisition, leaving American strategic interests vulnerable to continued Chinese expansion and resource monopolization that threatens American technological independence. According to my source, Trump's frustration with institutional resistance to strategic necessity led to alternative approaches designed to secure American rare earth access through partnerships, investment, and infrastructure development rather than territorial acquisition. The administration initiated Project Greenland Shield, a classified program designed to provide American companies with preferential access to Greenlandic rare earth resources through investment partnerships, technology transfer, and infrastructure development that would compete with Chinese strategic positioning. American mining companies received federal backing for Greenlandic investment proposals that would provide American entities with exclusive access to specific rare earth deposits while creating employment and economic development benefits for Greenlandic communities. American infrastructure companies proposed port, transportation, and processing facility development that would create American-controlled rare earth extraction and export capabilities independent of Chinese partnerships and infrastructure networks. American technology companies offered research collaboration and development partnerships that would provide Greenlandic institutions with advanced geological assessment, extraction technology, and processing capabilities while securing American priority access to discovered resources. Project Greenland Shield represented comprehensive American strategy to secure rare earth access through commercial partnerships rather than territorial acquisition, providing American resource security while respecting Danish sovereignty and international law. But the program encountered systematic Chinese counter-strategies designed to prevent American resource access and maintain Chinese advantages in global rare earth markets. Chinese entities increased investment in Greenlandic projects to outbid American competitors while offering more favorable terms to Danish and Greenlandic partners who controlled resource access and development rights. Chinese infrastructure investment accelerated to create facts on the ground that would make American alternative development economically unviable and politically impossible to implement effectively. Chinese diplomatic pressure on Danish officials emphasized economic benefits of Chinese partnership while characterizing American competition as threatening Danish sovereignty and Greenlandic autonomy. The systematic Chinese response demonstrated sophisticated understanding of resource competition and commitment to maintaining rare earth advantages that provide Chinese entities with technological leverage over American competitors and strategic opponents. According to my source, the competition between American and Chinese strategies for Greenlandic rare earth access continues under current administration policies. But Chinese advantages accumulated during Trump opposition may provide permanent Chinese resource control. Chinese infrastructure investment has created irreversible Chinese advantages in Greenlandic rare earth extraction and export capabilities that American competitors cannot match without massive federal investment that current political conditions make unlikely. Chinese partnerships with Danish and Greenlandic entities have established relationships and legal frameworks that provide Chinese interests with preferential access to rare earth resources regardless of American strategic concerns or competitive offers. Chinese rare earth processing capabilities in Greenland have reached operational status that provides Chinese entities with immediate extraction and export capabilities while American alternatives remain in planning and development phases. The combination of Chinese infrastructure advantages, partnership relationships, and operational capabilities suggests Chinese entities will achieve systematic control over Greenlandic rare earth resources, despite American strategic concerns and competitive efforts. But there's an even more alarming dimension to this crisis that my source revealed about the timeline for American strategic vulnerability if Chinese Greenlandic expansion continues unchallenged. According to classified Pentagon projections, Chinese control over Greenlandic rare earth resources combined with existing Chinese rare earth dominance would provide Chinese entities with 94% control over global rare earth supplies essential for advanced technology production. Chinese rare earth monopolization at such levels would enable Chinese manipulation of American technology industries through supply restrictions that could force American companies to relocate production capabilities to Chinese-controlled territories or cease operations entirely. American military modernization programs would become dependent on Chinese rare earth supplies that could be restricted or embargoed during international conflicts, degrading American defense capabilities and strategic deterrence effectiveness. American renewable energy transition would require Chinese rare earth access that could be manipulated to slow American energy independence while accelerating Chinese competitive advantages in clean technology markets. The strategic implications suggest Chinese rare earth monopolization through Greenlandic resource control would provide Chinese entities with leverage over American economic development, military capabilities, and technological competitiveness that could determine global power balance for generations. My source provided final intelligence about current administration responses to Chinese Greenlandic expansion and prospects for preventing Chinese rare earth monopolization through alternative American strategies. The Biden administration has maintained diplomatic approaches that prioritize alliance relationships over resource security, failing to implement aggressive counter-strategies that could prevent Chinese systematic resource control. American rare earth development initiatives focus on domestic mining expansion and recycling capability development that cannot provide sufficient supply security to eliminate dependence on Chinese-controlled resources. American diplomatic engagement with Danish officials emphasizes general partnership rather than specific resource security that would require acknowledgement of Chinese strategic threats and American strategic vulnerability. Current American approaches appear inadequate to prevent Chinese achievement of rare earth monopolization through Greenlandic resource control. suggesting American strategic interests will remain vulnerable to Chinese resource manipulation indefinitely. The intelligence assessment concludes that Trump's Greenland purchase proposal represented the most realistic opportunity for American rare earth security that current political and diplomatic conditions make unlikely to recur. Trump's $47 trillion Greenland secret reveals the hidden resource war that determines technological dominance and strategic autonomy in global power competition. The classified intelligence that motivated Trump's controversial territorial acquisition proposals documented systematic Chinese expansion into Greenlandic rare earth resources that threatens American technological independence permanently. Greenlandic rare earth reserves worth $47 trillion could provide American strategic resource security for generations, while eliminating dependence on Chinese-controlled supply chains that vulnerable to manipulation during international conflicts. Chinese systematic investment in Greenlandic mining, infrastructure, and partnerships has created advantages that may provide Chinese entities with permanent control over rare earth resources essential for American technology industries and military capabilities. Trump's institutional resistance prevented implementation of resource security through territorial acquisition, leaving American strategic interests vulnerable to continued Chinese expansion and systematic rare earth monopolization. Current American strategies appear inadequate to prevent Chinese resource control that would provide Chinese entities with technological leverage over American competitiveness, military capabilities, and economic development for decades. This is Asian Guy documenting the moment when American strategic foresight met institutional resistance, when resource security was sacrificed to diplomatic convention, when the most important territorial acquisition opportunity since Alaska was rejected due to political opposition and procedural prioritization. The rare earth war is real. The Chinese expansion continues. American vulnerability increases daily. And somewhere in Greenland, beneath ice sheets and political rhetoric, $47 trillion worth of strategic resources await control by whoever understands that geological reality determines technological future more effectively than diplomatic nicety. The Chinese are mining, America is debating. The future belongs to whoever controls the elements that power civilization. Trump understood, the establishment resisted, China advances while America remains dependent on adversarial supply chains for materials essential to national survival. The $47 trillion secret is exposed. The strategic opportunity was missed. The resource war continues with American disadvantages that diplomatic solutions cannot overcome.